What's up, guys? This is Miles Markowitz.
And this is Brad Thomas.
Here to give you the best sports insights to beat your bookie.
You only need to ask one question.
What's the spread? Welcome in. What's the spread? We are off and running. Thanks for joining us today. Brad, it is finally here. The one game that I've been waiting for so long. Ohio State, Penn State on Saturday night. And what makes it even better is that we are the feature game. There are no other top 25 games on Saturday.
So the spotlight's going to be on, and we're gonna identify how good both teams really are, because I don't think week one was a true indication of their skill level.
I agree with that. There's a lot to get into, a lot to talk about today. So let's go ahead and start with this one, man. We got number 3 Ohio State, number 18 Penn State. On the road, no whiteout. That's usually what we get here. It's going to be a very eerily quiet and empty Beaver Stadium on Halloween night. Ohio State come in here as 12-point favorites. Before we start breaking down the game, who are you going with?
I'm going with the Buckeyes, Miles. I know you're probably surprised picking the Buckeyes in a tough game here, but I have to pick the Buckeyes. Miles, Journey Brown, we already knew was out. No Kane's out for Penn State. Penn State, in their last 5 home games, are 0-5 against the spread. Now they have no whiteout, no fans. We watched the game together. The new OC, he needs to mix it up.
Yeah.
But when I went back and I rewatched some Minnesota film and reread what Flex said about their offense last year when he was getting criticized for that inside zone that they run, and he goes, "We're an inside zone team."
Right.
Well, the problem with Penn State is I don't think that Clifford has the arm talent to really make that an effective offense play style, because he's going to have to carry the load. Well, when he puts the ball in, he traps it. They're okay. They're okay to let the running back go. They're going to have to find someone to hurt them. And it's a terrible reason to have that be my main argument, but that game against Indiana showed their offensive weakness, and then they don't get the courtesy of having that electric crowd. I'm thinking Ohio State wins this by 7. This is going to be a close game. We know it until about midway through the third quarter, and Ohio State's going to start pulling away.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the spread because I think there is something to be said here. A couple different things. First of all, I don't think I've ever picked against Ohio State on the podcast in the years that we've been doing this thing. But I just feel good about Penn State plus 12. And let me also be clear that I never bet against Ohio State.
Yep.
So I may be picking Penn State plus 12, but no way in hell am I ever going to bet against Ohio State. Here's where I'm at, Brad.
Okay.
I want to talk about last week. Let's talk about Indiana and Penn State. That game.
Yes.
Indiana has been so close so many times against Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. They were going to get one eventually.
Yes.
And it took that, miraculous 2-point conversion, amazing play, big gamble by Tom Allen, and it paid off. It was going to happen. I just think that with this spread, right, 12 points, I think if Penn State wins that game last weekend, I think this spread is sitting around 7.5, 8 points. That's where I thought it was going to be at in the beginning of the season. If it was the whiteout game, I think Ohio State would be favored by 4.5, 5.5. I think the whiteout is worth 3 or 4 points. For me, I think that Nebraska came out with a really good offensive game plan against Ohio State, and our defense was really flat-footed in the first half.
Yes.
Their run game was really strong. You mentioned the run game that Penn State's trying to establish.
Yes.
They don't really have the backs for it right now. Clifford, I think he had to run for 119 yards.
Yeah, 119
last week. He ended up having a pretty good offensive game, but I would also agree with you on the arm talent. I don't think it's there. Fields is going to put on a show. Ohio State, I feel like, is going to win decisively, but I just don't see them covering the 12. I see like a 9, 10, or 11-point win here. But am I crazy for not going with Ohio State?
Do you think that Penn State's going to score in the 30s? Because I don't. And my problem is with the game that Penn State played, not one time was there really where I was like, man, they're playing a sound game, defense and offense. The problem with Ohio State is, you guys are going to score. I don't have the faith that Penn State will keep in this game for a long time. The only way Penn State makes this a close game is if they disrupt your offense early and make you guys turn the ball over. You just have to come from behind.
Well, and that's the other thing, too. So Fields won't turn the ball over. I know that. But our run game really wasn't good last week.
I have that as my notes. Lack of run game.
Really struggled, which we've seen that before. I saw it in 2018.
Yep.
We didn't see it last year because Dobbins was electrifying. But we are definitely trying to find an identity. We were going back and forth between Trey Sermon and Master T, trying to find somebody to pick it up. The offensive line, I feel like, didn't look as good as we thought they were going to look. And I was really worried about the defense. I know that our defense really shut Nebraska down in the second half. It took a couple big plays, but I'm telling you, Brad, in the beginning, I was nervous. I was, just because it was the first game. They came out with a really good game plan.
Yep.
Really good run game. They couldn't throw the ball.
No.
Worth a damn. But Penn State doesn't need to throw the ball. They're going to be running the football. And I also think their defense is way better than what it showed against Indiana. Indiana actually got outgained by a lot of yards on that game on Saturday. There was a lot of plays that could have gone this way or that.
I just don't think Indiana's offense is that good. That's where I was worried about.
That's a fair point. They were underwhelming for me.
Yes.
At that point. But one more thing that I wanted to say about the game is, again, the spread. I feel like if it was the whiteout, it would be 4.5, 5.5. I feel like if Penn State, I don't want to hear anybody saying that they're not a good football team, because they are still a really talented football team, and they're going to come out on Saturday with something to prove. They're going to give us a good game. Like you said, if Ohio State does end up covering the spread, it's going to be close at least until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It'll be a 10-point game throughout. And maybe it's just me being a little pessimistic about our performance last weekend. But man, it's a win-win for me, because if Penn State covers, then I end up being right. But if Ohio State covers, then we look really damn good.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to cover 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 after.
I mean, we are a covering machine right now.
I don't even want to go through all the trends, but let's just say you guys don't cover. I think that it will have to be an effort from behind. I don't think Penn State is going to keep up with you guys scoring-wise. What I saw from Justin Fields, and I remember messaging you this, where a lot of analysts are saying that Justin Fields is a lot closer to Trevor Lawrence than people think.
Right.
Justin Fields is going to be out to prove it all season.
And I'm starting to believe that, too.
This is going to be the year where he's like, screw this.
He was a drop touchdown pass away from being 21 of 21 on Saturday. I mean, he was flawless throwing the football. It's going to be tough for Penn State to defend that, and like you said, they're going to have to keep up on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
All right, what we got next?
Up next, we have number 17 Indiana, 10-point favorite, coming off a big victory versus Penn State, traveling to Rutgers, who's also coming off a big victory versus Michigan State.
Huge win. Who do you got?
Oh, my God. I went back and forth on this game, and initially I had Rutgers plus 10. I'm going to roll with Indiana minus 10. For me, I think this is a huge letdown spot for Rutgers. It's also going to show two very important things that we missed out, that the public's going to miss out on when backing Rutgers here. Rutgers could not throw the ball. They relied heavily on the run game. We saw, outside of the quarterback run, we saw Indiana do a very good job at stopping the run. Also, I'm all about letdown spots in college football. When you have a big master win like that Rutgers had, to come back from that and get you guys gassed for the next game, I don't see it happening. Every indication for this game, every trend you want to look up, you can honestly make an argument for either side.
I couldn't say it anything better myself. I'm also riding with Indiana minus 10 here. I think it's a big letdown spot for Rutgers.
Yeah.
Huge. I think the spread indicates, a Rutgers team that had that win 38-27 last weekend over Michigan State. But Michigan State turned the ball over 7 times last weekend, and they only won 38-27. So before you run and start to put your money on Rutgers, because I know they're going to be a hot pick.
Oh,
especially with plus 10.
I think they're eating like 65% of the bets.
Yeah, which doesn't surprise me, but I'm fading that all day long. I think the Penix is a better quarterback than what he showed. He's facing a really tough Penn State defense, and they still ended up winning the game.
Yep.
Rutgers is playing with a bunch of transfers right now. It's Greg Schiano's first year. Huge win for them.
Huge win.
To open up. That just goes to show the great coaching that they have. Indiana also coming off a huge win. So you could argue it could be a letdown spot for either of them. But listen, with only 10 points, I remember last weekend, Michigan State dropped from 12.5 to 9.5.
Yes.
And I said, I have to take this.
Yes.
It was against Rutgers.
Yep.
It ended up not being the right call, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to start picking Rutgers just because of one big win.
Yep. This reminds me a lot of Les Miles' first win at Kansas, when Les Miles
Good
finally
comparison.
started doing that, and people started backing Kansas.
Yes.
Now we're back to the days where we're like,
It's Kansas.
Yeah, it's Kansas.
Right, exactly. So. All right, next up, we got Arkansas at number 8, Texas A&M, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Texas A&M is 12.5-point favorites here. I'll go ahead and start. When I started to look into this game, I relied on the series history for my pick. And speaking of hot teams who are the topic of the, we got Arkansas here looking to get a win and get in position in the SEC West, which I never thought I would put in the same sentence, but I am going with Arkansas here, plus 12.5. Very curious to see which side you're on.
This is actually my game of the week, and I'm going Arkansas plus 12.5. So
lay it on me.
I try to do a lot of analytical digging in these games. I like to bet a lot on feel and trends, but the analytics for this game are really good, right? Mm-hmm. So Arkansas is one of the few teams who played more than 3 games who are undefeated against the spread.
Yep.
So Texas A&M is 2-2 against the spread. So I wanted to see what the average margin of victory is and what they were versus the spread. Both have a negative margin of victory, obviously, because both have some brutal losses where Arkansas has a 17-point loss to UGA and TMU has a big loss to Alabama. But what's really important is how they do compared to the spread they have. Arkansas is 12 points positive to the spread, 12.5 points positive, and Texas A&M is minus 4 points from the spread. So if you go back and you look at Arkansas's only double-digit loss in week 1 to Georgia, since then, Felipe Franks has thrown for 774 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's completing 68% of his passes. And in that game where he threw that 1 interception, it was his worst game where he threw for 224 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and the interception didn't even change the landscape of the game. Texas A&M, I believe, will win this game. But this is going to be another game where you have Texas A&M is going to have to grind it out. Off a bye week, 17-7 and 19 in their last 26 games. But just look at every single thing Arkansas is bringing into this. Momentum. They're covering. They're doing well. They play well off bye weeks, and they're getting a double-digit spread in a game where they could possibly be a live underdog.
Arkansas has given us a big enough sample size this year to prove that they are playing like a legit middle-of-the-road SEC team that can compete with other middle-of-the-road SEC teams. The program is certainly not where A&M is recruiting-wise, but the coaching for Arkansas has been incredible. I love the series history here, all right? First of all, as you said, Arkansas 4-0 against the spread. So I'll ride the hot hand. 12.5 points. I think it's, honestly, based on the performances this year, I think 12.5 is way too high.
Yes.
Okay. Arkansas has 8 straight losses against Texas A&M. However, 5 of those losses were by less than a touchdown, and 3 of those losses were in overtime.
Yes.
Now, this game is always played on a neutral field, so this is the first time in a while that it's going to be played at one of these campuses. But again, no crowd, so I'm not really taking that into effect, and I'm liking the 12.5.
Loving the 12.5. In their last 6 games as an underdog, 6-0 against the spread. Like, that's
impressive. Arkansas snuck up on me.
Kellen
Especially
Mond
now that I'm picking him.
He's playing a lot better throughout the season, but he's still not the guy.
Right. And that was the other point I wanted to make is that Kellen Mond is prone to mistakes.
Yeah.
And Arkansas forced 6 interceptions last week against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss has proven to have a pretty good offense this year at times. But 6 interceptions. Mond will make mistakes in this game.
Yes.
And all we need is for Mond to make 2 mistakes, and it's enough to cover the 12.5. All right. What are we ending with?
We're ending with the game that I'm very excited to watch because this is going to tell me a lot about both teams. Number 15, North Carolina, 6.5-point favorite, traveling to Virginia. Night game. Miles, I will start. I'm going with North Carolina. Who are you going with?
I like North Carolina here, man. Minus 6.5. Virginia. When I started digging into this game, I was actually surprised at the spread. I know that Virginia has... Listen, actually, no. I'm gonna take that back. Virginia's given me nothing to be confident in taking them with the points here, even if it was 7 or 7.5. Virginia has the worst pass defense in the entire conference, and North Carolina right now is balling. In their last 3 games, they're averaging over 550 total yards on offense. I think that for this game, for Virginia to cover, they're gonna have to keep up with North Carolina. Are you kidding me? North Carolina's gonna win this game by 3 scores.
I'm so glad you said that. Virginia, terrible pass defense.
Horrible.
I think they're 30.
No offense.
Like 36th worst rush defense, allowing 136. Oh, it's 34th worst rush defense, 136 rush yards per game. They're going against a team who has a very comparable quarterback in Sam Howell.
Yep.
But also to make that even harder, they're going against a team who's averaging 250 yards on the ground.
Very balanced attack.
Devontae Williams will have a field day. I will take his player prop because I know he's going to run for over 110 yards.
This is not a trap game for North Carolina. I think
No.
North Carolina easily wins by 3 scores. They're also averaging 14.6 yards per completion, and now they're coming in against the worst pass defense in the entire conference, and they only got to win by a touchdown. There's no way in hell they lose the game. I think it's a blowout.
Yes, I think the blowout. Average margin of victory for North Carolina this year is 12.8 points per game. Listen, this is a game where I already know the lines moved from 6.5 to 7.
Right.
Lock this
Still
in
take
early.
it. Yeah.
Because it's
It will
going to be
move.
it's going to be a big game. You know, North Carolina, after they had that big loss, they still have something to prove because in their minds, if they make it to the ACC championship, they are a playoff contender.
Yep. They got a shot still. So no one is ever out of it with one loss, and North Carolina is still trying to prove that they were worth the hype that they had all offseason, and I think that it continues here. All right, let's go to the Dogs. We started really hot with the Dogs.
Yeah.
But we're looking for some more wins here.
Looking for some wins. For me, it was tough to find because I found a lot of 3-point dogs that were really weird. And I'm going Kansas State, 3.5-point favorite. This is just the wrong team favorite. A lot of times you take dogs, you want to take shots. Honestly, this is just the wrong team that's favorite. Kansas State should be the favorite here. I'm a Mountaineer, West Virginia guy, but I'm going Kansas State all day. Better team.
Yeah, I think we're both going to get a win this week because that's what I had. Kansas State plus 3.5 over West Virginia. I looked through the games 2-3 times trying to find something that stood out, and then finally I come across this game in one of my sweeps, and I thought it was a typo. I thought that really this is one of the, as you said, I think that Kansas State should be the favorite here. There's actually quite a few pretty good looking plus 3.5-point underdogs.
Like Temple, I think, is another one too that looks pretty good. Temple versus Tulane.
Yeah, so so kind of take a look there, but Kansas State playing really good football. So I like taking the points there. All right, so before we do our rapid fire NFL, let's go ahead and break for our sponsors.
Hey, Miles. You know, it'd be pretty cool if there's a social media app just for sports.
You know, Brad, I was just thinking that. Like a social media app where there's a feed where you can post about your picks, see what others are saying about the game, and you know how I love to see how the lines move throughout the week.
Well, you're in luck. Viget is the best social media platform just for sports. When you download Viget, use promo code SPREAD and create your account today.
We back.
Yes, we are back.
All right. So let me say, last week we had the Titans and the Steelers.
Yes.
And you picked correctly with the Steelers. I was on the side of the Titans. It ended up being a really good game. The Steelers almost blow it in the end. We got the Steelers again here, headlining another game of the week. We got the Steelers at the Ravens. The Ravens are 4-point favorites. Which side do you want?
It's all good. I'm going with the Steelers. Listen, I know everyone's going to back the Ravens, so I'm just going to keep waiting until this line just balloons up. This is the Steelers' year. I said this time and time again that I have a preseason bet on the Steelers to win the Super Bowl. This Steelers team is playing good defense, and I thought they were going to take a major step back last week. But
I did too.
Everyone has to remember how good that Titans offense is. Yeah. The Steelers play well, but the real story is Ben Roethlisberger. Coming off an injury this season, completing 68% of his passes, thrown for over 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions.
And I feel like not enough people are talking about this. Ben Roethlisberger is playing like his rookie year right now.
Yep.
This kid has come out of nowhere. Not even a kid anymore. He's a grown-ass man. But, I mean, he's come out of nowhere to have this excellent season.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not doubting the Steelers again. I'm certainly not betting against the Steelers 2 weeks in a row. So I'm also all over the Steelers here. And I think that people will continue to back the Ravens. So I'm also going to be looking for that line to get higher and higher.
The Ravens, this is for me as a matchup for the Ravens. Ravens haven't been particularly well at their pass defense, and the Steelers are going to pass the ball. The Ravens are a run-first defense, and the Steelers have an amazing run defense. I think it'll be a lot like the Titans game where the Steelers will just get up early and then try to coast the rest of the game, and the Ravens will be taken out of their offensive play style.
Yeah, and what have we seen out of Lamar Jackson in these big games? More often than not, he doesn't play well when the spotlight is on him. I'm not saying that he isn't capable of having a good game, because obviously he's the MVP.
Yes.
Like he has had good games. But I'm saying is that more often than not, when the spotlight is on him in a big game like this, good defenses and good teams will find ways to shut him down.
Yes.
They're going to shut down the run.
Yep.
They're going to force him to throw. Derrick Henry was stymied last weekend.
Yes.
I mean, what do you have, like 89 rushing yards, I think? So,
yeah.
I mean, Derrick Henry has been the best running back in the NFL
Yes.
So far this year. He's been a force. And the Steelers shutting him down in the first half and taking that big lead into the locker room is what allowed them to coast in the second half.
Yes.
I think the Steelers are going with a very similar game plan, and I don't think the Ravens are going to have an answer. I got some trends.
Here we go.
The Steelers are 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 as a road dog, while Baltimore 5-12 against the spread in their last 17 as home favorites. Additionally, keeping in mind that this is a conference or division game, the underdog in this matchup is 4-0-1 against the spread in their last 5 meetings.
I like that.
And I think 4 is very favorable because, listen, I don't think there's any way that this game is not close.
Yes.
This game is going to be a close game. If it is a blowout, it'll go the Steelers' way.
Absolutely.
The Ravens aren't going to blow out the Steelers because it's just not that kind of matchup for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look at the games that the Ravens played this year. Like, everyone's saying the Ravens are playing so well, but not particularly. I mean, the 2 games where they blowed out their opponents, they had the Washington terrible team, and then they have the Bengals who literally couldn't get anything going on offense. And then had a turnover, a pick 6 or a scoop and score or whatever. Baltimore had a scoop and score. Both those games, they would have hardly gotten the 20s. Their offense is not where it's at. They didn't score 20 points against the Chiefs, and they scored 30 against the Eagles, but gave up 28. This game's going to be close. The Steelers are going to win this game.
All right, I'm going to let you take the next one, my friend, because I think there is a particular reason why you decided to pick this game.
The next game, we have the Los Angeles Rams -3.5, traveling to the Miami Dolphins. Everyone in America thinks that, what are they doing in Miami? Why are they starting Tua Tagovailoa? What are they thinking? Against the Rams, you see how good the Rams are playing? No, guys, listen. This is Trap Game Central. There is a reason why they decided to start Tua. You don't start Tua when your team is going downhill. Why? Because you want the rest of your team to play up for their new guy. Another trap game reason, the Rams in their last 5 home games last 5 road games versus the Dolphins have lost them all. Dolphins, their last 5 games following a bye week, 5-0 against the spread. This season at home, 4-1 against the spread? I think that this has trap written all over it because Tua's going to sling the ball, and that defense is solid. They have good corners. They get pressure on the quarterback. All it takes is one good drive for Tua to know that, oh my God, I can compete at a high level with these guys. It's over.
But I will say it's going to be against a really tough defense.
Yeah.
And the Rams are playing really well. Listen, I'm going with the Rams here. They came through for me last week with a big cover on Monday Night Football against the Bears, where I think it was up to 7 by game time. We got a 3.5 point spread here. Their history in Miami is not pretty. I don't think they've won a game in Miami since we've been alive.
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately, I'm pretty sure that's what the history was saying, which I was surprised to see. Listen, this is LA to Miami. So also you got the travel time. You got Tua's first game. A lot of hype. Dolphins have actually been playing pretty well. But the Rams defense only allowing 17.7 points per game, which is second in the NFL. And everything that I've said about the Rams over the past weeks is starting to come to fruition a little bit. Jared Goff is actually playing really efficient football. He recovered after having a really bad game a couple weeks ago, but looked really good really efficient and really good on Monday night. Was mistake-free, running the offense, converting third downs, letting his defense win the football game for him. I think that if he follows that game plan, I think they're going to be able to cover here.
Listen, just so you don't think that I'm doing the total homer pick.
Sure.
When I sent the game over,
Yeah.
I actually had Rams -3.5.
So what made you change your mind?
I dug into this game a little bit more, and I was looking at how stout this defense is for the Rams. But then I went back and I looked at the teams they played and what happened. When they played against the Bills, they allowed 35 points. When they played against the Giants, they only allowed 9 because of the Giants. When they played against Washington, it was 10 because it's Washington. But then when they played against the 49ers, they allowed another 24 points. When they played against good teams with okay offenses,
That's a fair point.
They've lost the games, and those were against the Bills and the 49ers. I think that this offense is going to provide enough trouble, especially how do you scout for this? How do you scout for Tua in the NFL? What's Miami going to do?
Yeah.
Because it's definitely not going to be the same offense that he ran with Steve Sarkisian. So it's just a lot coming into play here that made me comfortable with taking the 3.5.
A lot to be excited about here. I mean, I was, before the draft, I really thought that Miami was going to be a good spot for Tua, and I still believe that. So can't wait for Tua time. All right, next. We got a game that I put on the dock today. New England Patriots at Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 3.5 point favorites at home. Not something that we're used to seeing when it comes to the Patriots and the Bills. There's a reason I want to talk about this game today, Brad. Because I feel like, first of all, this game's a little bit under the radar.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a lot of storylines going on here.
Yep.
We are talking about a Bills-Patriots matchup that since the year 2000, the Bills have lost 35 of 39 games to the Patriots. They've lost 7 in a row to the Patriots. Belichick has found a way to beat the Bills time in and time again. Even when the Bills were hyped or had a decent team, the Patriots still come in and kick their ass. I'm going to admit, before I say my pick, I did have the Bills when I saw it for the first time. But then you know what? I went with the Patriots plus 3.5, and I'm going with the history. I'm going with the coaching. At this point, I think it's a mental thing. The question is, are the Bills ready to cross that threshold? Patriots are 2-4. Newton is playing horribly. 2 touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
Benched last game.
The Patriots have been horrific in their last 3 games, outscored 77-28. So I must be nuts for taking the Patriots plus 3.5. Please tell me you're taking the Bills. And that you're not on this train.
Listen.
And tell me why.
I did the same thing you did last week.
Okay.
And I used Belichick against his former quarterbacks.
Yep.
And everything that sounds sweet when it comes off the tongue. Mm-hmm. Everything he said sounded beautiful. I was like, God, heck yeah, man. I would bet the Patriots too, but I cannot do it. Listen, when the Patriots don't perform well, they don't rebound well. 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games following against the spread loss. Distractions galore. Gilmore put his house up for sale. He wants out. There are going to be players who we'd rather the season be over than for them to fight for a spot in something that's not going to happen. The Bills are sitting right at the top of the AFC East, and they, after they had their 2-game losing streak, finally snapped it and played better. We just need Josh Allen to control the ball. Listen, also 4-0 against the spread as their last 4 games as a home favorite. I think 3.5 is good enough for me to go ahead and take care of this. We also have to remember no Edelman. The run game, we don't know what's going to happen. Cam Newton's a running game for New England. It's okay.
Nothing is there right now.
It's okay because
for the Patriots.
Patriots can go and have a 5-win season,
sure,
and they're going to bounce back in a year or 2, and no one's going to remember this 5-win season.
Draft Justin Fields, and then, pair him with Belichick, and then we'll see how it goes. Could you imagine a Tua Tagovailoa versus Josh Allen division race in
God.
the AFC? I mean, this is why the Dolphins, went with Tua.
Yeah.
Because it's an opportunity where they can absolutely compete for the division.
Yes.
Not saying that Fitzpatrick wasn't having a good season, but Tua has that ceiling.
Yeah.
Like Allen does. So it's going to be really fun to see a team that's not the Patriots actually compete for the AFC East. All right, what's our last game?
Last, we're ending with the San Francisco 49ers and Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are a 3-point favorite. I locked in the Seahawks as soon as I dug into this game.
I'm with you, man. Seahawks -3. This is what I love about this is that we seem to be talking about a lot of the same teams every Sunday.
Yep.
Which, makes me feel more comfortable about where I'm picking them.
But we also picked against,
I was about to say, last weekend, we correctly picked the Cardinals to cover plus 3.5. What a great pick that was.
Yes.
Pat on the back, bud.
Nice work.
I was really proud of that one.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, because we were both really confident in that.
Yes.
We knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yep.
The Seahawks defense couldn't stop Kyler Murray in the Arizona offense. That's been looking a lot better. But Russell Wilson is still being Russell Wilson. The Seahawks defense hasn't looked great, but listen, I'm not confident in the 49ers like I was in the Cardinals offense.
No, not even a little bit. And the problem here with the 49ers is they're going to have to keep up with that pace that the Cardinals did.
You're going to have to.
We have
their defense isn't going to slow down Russell Wilson.
Yes.
He's going to score.
The number 1 scoring offense in the entire NFL is taking the field in a home game as a 3-point favorite. Russell Wilson's this team's averaging 33.8 points per game. Like, you have a team that's 5-2 against the spread in their last 7, and that one not against the spread game is where I honestly thought they should have been underdogs versus Arizona. So realistically, it should have been 6-1 against the spread because it should have been a pick 'em or a 3-point swing. But whatever. I just think that 49ers are banged up.
Yeah, especially the backfield.
Backfield's banged up.
Defense side of the ball, and just really surprised to see such a low spread. Again, there's no way the Niners are going to keep up with Seattle, and Seattle is going to score. Not to mention, the Seahawks straight up are 11-2 in their last 13 games against the 49ers. And with 3 points, that's almost a money line. If they're going to win the game, it's going to be by more than 3.
I locked that game in so quick it wasn't even crazy. And that's one of those, don't overthink it. Like, they just have so many weapons on offense. Yeah. I mean, even if Chris Carson can't go, ready? You have what? Carlos Hyde, who looked really good. DJ Dallas, who's an underrated back that a lot of people don't know about. And then you have Russell. So the run game's still there.
Carlos Hyde is just finding a way to keep a role in the NFL.
Yes.
And I love it.
I mean,
this guy's been around for almost 10 years.
Yeah, and keeps that career going.
Yeah, which is really cool. I say we just end every show with an NFC West matchup. It seems to be bringing us good luck. Good stuff, man.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to What's the Spread podcast. Be sure to download the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or however else you get your podcasts. Best of luck in your bets this week.
And let's go Buckeyes.